When I got the call from Dad, I knew something wasn't right. He rarely called me in the middle of the workday unless it was something important. His voice sounded strained, like he was trying to hold back frustration or maybe even embarrassment. "Logan," he said, "do you think you could stop by the house after work? I could use your help with something." Dad wasn't the type to ask for help lightly. Ever since Mom passed away 5 years ago, he had become fiercely independent. Even as his hair started to gray and his knees began to creak a little more each year, he always kept up the house and did everything himself. So for him to reach out, I knew it was serious. I finished my shift at the auto shop around 6, grabbed a change of clothes from my locker, and headed to the old family house on Maple Street. The place hadn't changed much since I was a kid. Same green shutters, same flower bed lining the walkway, though now it was a bit overgrown. Dad's truck was parked out front, the driver's side door hanging open. That was my first sign that something was really off. I stepped inside and called out, "Dad!" His voice came from the kitchen. "Back here." I rounded the corner and stopped short at the sight in front of me. Dad was kneeling on the kitchen floor, surrounded by tools, rags, and a puddle of water that had spread out in a 10-foot circle. In his hand, he held what looked like a snapped section of a 12-inch copper pipe. "I take it this is the issue," I said, stepping carefully to avoid the water. He let out a tired laugh. "Yeah, you could say that. The old pipe under the sink gave out this morning. Burst clean through while I was doing the dishes. Flooded the whole kitchen." I whistled. "Looks like it. Why didn't you call a plumber?" He shook his head. "I tried. Everyone's booked solid for the week. Said the earliest someone could come out was next Tuesday. I thought maybe I could patch it up myself, but, well, you can see how that turned out." I crouched down beside him, inspecting the pipe. It was indeed a clean break, right at the joint where corrosion had likely worn it thin over time. "You've still got the water shut off, right?" "Main valve's off," he confirmed. "All right. Let me go grab my tools from the truck. We'll get this taken care of." His eyes lit up with relief. "Thanks, son." It took me about 20 minutes to bring in the tools, towels, and a couple replacement fittings from the stash I always kept in the back of my truck. I hadn't worked on plumbing in a while, but the principles weren't too different from what I did at the shop. With the right connectors and a little bit of patience, we'd have it sealed and dry. As I got to work, Dad hovered nearby. "You know, your mom used to say this house had a mind of its own," he said. "Like it waited for the worst time to break something." "Sounds about right," I muttered, tightening a compression fitting. "When was the last time these pipes were replaced?" He gave a sheepish shrug. "Maybe 30 years ago." "That explains it." We worked in comfortable silence for a while, interrupted only by the sound of tools clinking and occasional cursing when I scraped my knuckles on something sharp. As I slid the new section of pipe into place and sealed the ends with plumber's tape, I glanced up at him. "You've really been doing everything by yourself all this time?" "Yes." He nodded. "I guess I didn't want to bother anyone. Figured I'd manage as long as I could." I tightened the last bolt and sat back. "You don't have to do it all alone, you know. I'm just 20 minutes away. And I don't mind helping." He looked at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded. "I appreciate that, Logan. Really do. Sometimes I forget it's okay to ask." I turned the main valve back on and we watched as the water ran through the pipe, smooth and steady, no leaks in sight. The puddle on the floor had been mopped up, the tools packed away. The 12-inch issue that had caused all this stress was finally resolved. We shared a quiet moment over coffee in the living room afterward. The sun had dipped below the horizon, and the light outside was golden. Dad sat back in his recliner and sighed. "You know," he said, "I remember when you were 10 years old and you tried to fix the garbage disposal with a butter knife. Nearly electrocuted yourself." I laughed. "And you grounded me for a week. Well, look at you now. You turned out all right." That night I didn't rush home. We watched a game on TV, argued over which team had the better quarterback, and caught up in ways we hadn't in months. Something had shifted between us, not just the pipe, but the understanding that it was okay to lean on each other. Over the next few weeks, I made it a habit to stop by every few days. Sometimes it was just to check on things around the house. Other times it was to share dinner, play cards, or just talk. One Saturday, we repainted the garage together. Another time I helped him install a new water heater. With each project, he opened up a little more. Not just about the house but about life, Mom, and how hard it had been without her. One afternoon in early spring, I came by to find him in the backyard, standing by a rotting section of the fence. He pointed at it and said, "Think you've got another repair left in you?" I grinned. "Always." As we worked together under the warm sun, it hit me just how much this time with him meant. We were building more than just repairs and upgrades. We were rebuilding our connection, one project at a time. The 12-inch issue that started it all had turned into something much bigger, much better. It brought us back together. It reminded me that sometimes, when something breaks, it's really just an opportunity to fix something else, something more important. Looking back now, I realize that day was the turning point. What started as a simple broken pipe turned into one of the best decisions I ever made. Stepping in to help not just because Dad needed it but because I did too. And I'll always be grateful for that 12-inch problem. It was the thing that finally brought us back together as father and son.